Great. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you to Wholesale Investor and MTP Connect for putting this on, and thank you to everybody in the audience for taking time out of their schedules to be here. I am looking forward to telling you about what Arovella is doing with our, and it is a mouthful, invariant natural killer T, iNKT cell platform for short, to tackle initially blood cancers, but then moving into solid tumours. For those of you that don't know us, we are listed on the Australian Stock Exchange under the ticker ALA. I will also be making forward-looking statements. So I'd like to start here because we had some very important news announced a couple of weeks ago, which is for our lead program, we received from the US FDA what's known as acceptance for our investigational new drug application. And why that's important is what it means in terms of our therapy. I think Rebecca's done a nice job of explaining how complicated they are, is we've had full validation from the FDA of all the preclinical work that we've done, the manufacturing process that we've painstakingly developed, as well as the clinical plans. So that's all been written up, given to the FDA in the US, and they've said, great, we think that's suitable. We think you're ready to start phase 1 clinical trials. So that's really important because in practical sense, what does it mean? We can start phase 1. We can now put this for the first time into humans and see if we have the positive effects for lymphoma and leukemia patients. We will start this in Australia, but with the open IND, it means we can also open sites in the US. And we are well funded. So we have enough money in the bank. We finished December last year with $19.4 million. We believe that's enough to take us to a meaningful efficacy and safety readout, which is critical. And importantly, for all of our other products that we intend to develop, the IND becomes the blueprint for those products. And we already have another program we're developing, and we just heard how nasty pancreatic cancer and gastric cancers can be. Our second program is targeting those indications. So how do we actually take a therapy and get it from the inception stages to patients? We license technologies. In our first case for ALA-101, which is for blood cancers, we license that from Imperial College London. We either have or we generate preclinical information to show that it's doing what we want. We then have one raw material called a lentivirus, which is how we genetically reprogram the cells. That feeds into our manufacturing platform. We, in this case, get the IND accepted by the FDA and then hoping to start phase 1 before the end of the fiscal year this year. So as I said, we've got a second program which we're developing to target gastric cancer and pancreatic cancer. We have already licensed the technology for this. We have good preclinical information, but we would like to put more effort into that before we put a tick. We then generate that raw material, the lentivirus. That will also feed into the same manufacturing platform. We engage with the FDA, submit our IND, and then we start another phase 1 clinical trial. This will be the same process for all of our therapies. And as I said, we've got a few more under negotiation at the moment that we'll bring into the company to target other indications. So data is critical in our field. And I think Rebecca's just touched on that nicely. And I don't put this slide up here to say that Arovella is for sale. And I won't certainly go through each transaction line by line here, but there's a series of acquisitions and partnerships. And what they all have in common is they are early stage cell therapy transactions. So all of them here are either phase 1 or preclinical. As a reminder, Arovella is about to enter the phase 1 stage and start generating clinical data. And you can see many of them, and certainly in the recent months, they have been several billion-dollar transactions, sometimes even $1 billion cash up front. So again, why do we want to show this slide? It's because there's some pretty big names, Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb, Kite, AbbVie, and others that also realize that this is a very important sector. So Arovella is delighted to be working in this field. So let me just step back a second because CAR-T, as Rebecca's explained it, is a very paradigm shifting treatment modality. And what we've seen for blood cancers is that we're actually starting to use the word cure. So patients are now 10 years plus cancer free, which is remarkable. Not surprisingly, sales have been strong for leading products, but we still do see failure rates. And one of the challenges that comes with a CAR-T, because of the nature of the product, it needs to be manufactured using the patient's material and then given back to the patient. So what this means is every dose has to be manufactured each time, which things can become complicated from a logistics and cost point of view. Cells aren't always in great shape, so the raw material that's used is not ideal for manufacturing. Many centers can't do it in the US, so patients can miss out. It does take time, so patients can die while the therapy is being made. And there's always the risk of a manufacturing run failure. So Arovella's strategy is really very simple on paper. We use iNKT cells because they can freely be given from one human to another. We collect blood from a healthy person. We manufacture, vial, store in the freezer so that this can be pulled out and given to patients as and when needed. So how do we do that? And we didn't invent the iNKT cell, but we've spent a great amount of time working on ways to be able to use them for this process, and those ways are also patent protected. Also, importantly, we know that our iNKT cells have a very strong safety profile, but they're also robust killers. So they do have multiple arms of killing and shaping what we call the tumor microenvironment. And when they've been compared in certain studies in both blood cancers and solid tumors, we have seen outperformance in these animal models for iNKT cells, which is quite important. So in terms of how we sit in terms of the landscape, the T cell space is still quite crowded. So is the NK cell space. So Arovella's strategy in terms of having something that was scalable but unique puts us in the position here where there's actually only a handful of companies globally working in the iNKT cell space. With the acceptance of our IND from the FDA, we actually think this puts us, if not the leader, very close to being the leader in the CAR-iNKT cell field. So in terms of our pipeline, this is how it looks at the moment, and it is maturing very nicely. So we have our lead product, ALA-101. As I said, we're now rapidly accelerating to take that into the first in human phase 1 clinical trial, which we aim to do before the end of the fiscal year this year. Again, that's for CD19 positive blood cancer patients. And ALA-105, for which we've already started to generate promising preclinical data. The idea is to let that run through the same IND process for which now we have the blueprint and get that one into the IND enabling stages and the IND submitted as soon as possible. So in terms of the investment highlights, as I said, we've got a clinic-ready program in ALA-101, aiming to take that into clinic quite soon. ALA-105 is already demonstrating promising data. We're looking forward to presenting data on that quite soon once we've put the technology we've licensed into our iNKT cells. We are negotiating some more CARs to bring into the company, which gives us more shots on goal for different cancers like neuroblastoma and hepatocellular carcinoma, and we continue to look for new technologies to enhance the platform. We are well funded with $19.4 million in the bank. And as I said, we are one of a handful of companies globally working with a CAR-iNKT cell product. So very quickly, I think all of this happens certainly not without the strong support of an outstanding team, and that's what we've got at Arovella. I haven't got everybody listed on the slide here, but some of the key players, they have got a wealth of information across drug development, but specifically across cell therapies, which I think is very important for this asset class. And a strong board as well. We appointed at the end of last year Dr. Andrew Nash, who was formerly the Chief Scientific Officer of CSL. I'm sure most of you will know that company quite well. So in terms of our financials, we are currently well funded, as I said, with $19.4 million. We've got a valuation of between 100 and 110 million. Last time I presented here, it was 25, so things have gone in the right direction. We do hope that continues to be the case. In terms of our shareholders, we've got institutions, high net worths, and some others on the register, but certainly looking forward to bringing new investors onto the register that understand both the risks and rewards that come with an investment in biotechnology. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you again for your attention.